Hi! Welcome back, students! We are done with our modules weeks 1 to 2. And today, we're proceeding to week 3, lesson 1 of the 21st century literature. But first, what really is 21st century literature? Let us see. 21st century literature refers to new literary work created within the last decade. Last decade, meaning the year today less than 10 years. It is also written by contemporary authors which may deal with current themes, issues, and reflects a technological culture. It also often breaks traditional writing rules. So you could write anything you want to, no restrictions in meter, in style, in language, and the like. New writers from the millennials or even Gen Z are in. Are you one of them? Are you a 21st century reader? Let's find out through this checklist. A 21st century reader grew up using technology as a primary learning tool. Is that a check for you? Next, a 21st century reader grew up capable of navigating and interpreting digital formats and media messages, technology as a primary learning tool. And lastly, a 21st century reader possesses literacy skills which include technological abilities such as keyboarding, internet navigation, interpretation of technological speak, ability to communicate and interpret coded language and decipher graphics. Is that a check? Well, definitely, if all these are checked in your checklist, you are a 21st century reader. Now, if you are a 21st century reader, keep on watching! Before we further discuss this exciting and relatable lesson, let's have a short activity. The title is Think, Pair, and Share. Because we are in the new normal situation, your partner or your pair will be one of your family members. Think, Pair, Share, new normal version featuring your family members. Here are the instructions. First, get a partner from your family members for this activity. It can be your sister, it can be your brother, your mother, or elderlies at home. Second, complete the table about the different changes in the Philippines from past to present time. Later, after these instructions, I will be showing you the table. Third, give at least 2 for each item asked for. And lastly, you are given 3 minutes to jot down or memorize your answers. We have 2 tables here, my past and my present. As you can see, my past column has all things from before, while my present has the ones of today. For the items which has your answer or labeled your answer, you must give at least 2 examples as a counterpart of the other given. Number 1, for example, Barot Saya. An item was given on the table of my past. So, across it, number 1, on my present table, you will provide the past's counterpart. What is Barot Saya of the era today, of the era of my present? Give at least 2 examples. Second one, cassette tape or vinyl records. If you are not familiar, you have your partners from your family members who can help you answer this activity. What is the counterpart of the cassette tape today at present time? Number 3, how about bakya? Give your answer also for my present of its counterpart. Number 4, your answer. So here on number 4, you will give your answer under my past, and the clue or the given one is at my present. On number 4, text or chat. What is its counterpart during my past? And so on. Kindly finish it until item number 10. Do it as fast as you can, and you are only given 3 minutes, and that time starts now. Alright, after finishing this short activity, I hope that you have recognized my past items and my present times so that you can compare the past or the old or earlier things that we are using, as well as what are they now today. Let's proceed. Here are our objectives for today. After going through this lesson, you are expected to, first, differentiate the 21st century literary genres and the ones from the original genres. 2. Enumerate the elements, structures, and traditions of each genre. And third, appreciate the unique features of each genre. Very easy objectives, and I hope we will meet this at the end of the lesson. Now, let's travel to the past and recall the 4 major literary genres. You might have met these 4 major literary genres from junior high school. First, we have poetry. Can you say poetry? The pronunciation is under the word. It is an imaginative awareness of experience expressed through meaning, sound, and rhythmic language choices to evoke an emotional response. It has been known also to employ meter and rhyme. The very nature of poetry as an authentic and individual mode of expression makes it nearly impossible to define. So whatever the message of the poetry depends on the one who perceives it. 2. Drama. It is a composition in prose or verse, presenting in dialogue or pantomime a story involving conflict, more contrast of character, specially intended to be acted on stage, or what we call a play. It may be any situation or series of events having vivid, emotional, conflicting, or striking interest. Next, the third one is fiction. It is a literature created from the imagination, not presented as fact, though it may be based on a true story or situation. Remember, the keyword here is from the imagination of the writer. Examples of it are novel, short story, and novella. They can be from a true story, but some situations in the story are merely from the imagination of the author. Number 4, and the last, non-fiction. It is based on facts and the author's opinion about a subject. Unlike fiction, non-fiction is based on facts, or merely the real events or experiences, even the opinions of the author. The purpose of non-fiction is to inform and sometimes to persuade or convince. Examples are biographies, articles from textbooks, and magazines and newspapers. Very easy, right? Those are the conventional or early literary genres. Now, let us travel back to the present, to 21st century literary genres. And this is our topic or lesson for today. Let us define first what genres are. Genres are categories of artistic composition as in music or movies, characterized by similarities in form, style, or subject matter. Just like music has jazz, pop, rock, R&B, and movies have action, melodrama, horror, or romance, literature has its genres too. And here are the examples. Number 1. Illustrated novel. Are you familiar with this? These are stories through text and illustrated images. Let us have a brief description of illustrated novel. 50% of the narrative is presented without words. The reader must interpret the images to comprehend the story completely. Textual portions are presented in traditional form. Some illustrated novels may contain no text at all, span all genres. And examples include The Invention of Hugo Cabret by Brian Selznick and The Arrival by Sean Tan. So an illustrated novel class is a literary almost wordless or wordless at all. See, it only has 50% of the narrative or the textual portions of or whatever is being said by the characters. The key here is for you to interpret the images, for you to comprehend what the story is all about completely. Examples. As mentioned, here is The Arrival and The Invention of Hugo Cabret. Look closely at these examples. A whole pair of pages with illustrations only. Here, in illustrated novels, there are merely no captions or dialogue written in text. Next, number 2, digi-fiction. This is also called the triple media literature. Let us find out why. It is because it combines 3 media: the book, movie or video, and internet website. That is what digi-fiction is. To get the full story, students must engage in navigation, reading, viewing in all 3 forms. Not only read it in the book, but also watch the movie or the video, and even search or browse the internet for more stories or for more reading. Patrick Carman's Skeleton Creek and Anthony Zwicker's Level 26 are examples. These are their books, which can be found as a book, can be watched through videos, and can be browsed through the internet. Let us have another 21st century literary genre, which is graphic novel. These are narrative in comic book formats, or merely what we call the comics. A graphic novel is a narrative work in which the story is conveyed to the reader using a comic form. Archie Comics by John Goldwater and illustrator Bob Montana is a good example. This might be the most familiar. The comics, wherein you can find in magazines, in newspapers, and some reading materials for kids and teens. Next, we also have manga, not our country's national fruit, but the Japanese word for comics, manga. It is used in the English-speaking world as a generic term for all comic books and graphic novels originally published in Japan, considered as an artistic storytelling style. Manga, sometimes used to refer to comics created by American artists in manga style. Let us have manga's types and examples. First is shonen, or a boys' manga. Some examples are Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece, all for the boys. Second, shoujo, or girls' manga. One example is Sailor Moon. Next, seinen, or men's manga. Example is Akira. Next, josei, women's manga. Examples are Loveless and Paradise Kiss. Lastly, kodomo, or children's manga. Examples are Doraemon and Hello Kitty. I believe you have watched and even read almost all of them. This is how a manga book looks like, and they begin reading from the last page, as we all know. They read it backwards, and that is one reason that makes it a lot interesting for us. Next, the 5th one. We call it Doodle fiction. Wow, doodles, as you can see in this photo. These are literary presentations incorporating doodle writings and drawings. Have you made one of your own during classes or in your free time? Doodle fiction is a literary presentation where the author incorporates doodle writing and drawings and handwritten graphics in place of the traditional font. Just like calligraphy, drawing enhances the story, often adding humorous elements. Next, examples include The Diary of a Wimpy Kid by Jeff Kinney and Timmy Failure by Stefan Pastis. The Diary of a Wimpy Kid and Timmy Failure. As you can see, they are just like graphics and drawings and writings of anyone. Let us have the 6th, text talk novels. These are blogs, email, and instant messages format narratives. Really, instant messages can be narratives or literary pieces? Yes, indeed. These are stories told almost entirely in dialogue, simulating social network exchanges. It's like chatting someone, your friend, your special someone, or your family. Example, take a look at this photo. Text talk novels can be about anything in genres too. This is a new trend and can be downloaded in App Store and Play Store. There are many apps that supplement this kind of novels, wherein the characters exchange their conversations and the story flows that way. It can be about dating, about romance, about family, thrillers, and so on. 7th, chick lit, or we call chick literature. Yes, chick lit, not a bubblegum, but chick literature. It is a genre of fiction which addresses issues of modern womanhood, often humorously and lightheartedly. It typically features a female protagonist whose femininity is heavily thermalizing in the plot. Scarlett Bailey's The Night Before Christmas and Miranda Dickinson's It Started with a Kiss are examples of this. As defined here, chick lit is all about modern womanhood, wherein the story goes about her femininity, her features as a female, and she is always the main character or the protagonist. Let us have examples. As you can see, these might be familiar with you or you have watched them in Netflix. Majority of the new trends in Netflix series that we watch are exactly how a chick lit is portrayed. One best example that I could recommend to you is To All the Boys I Loved Before. Number 8. We also have flash fiction. It is a very short story. Let's see how short this is. It is a style of fictional literature of extreme brevity. Brevity means very short, and extreme added to it makes it very or really short. There is no widely accepted definition of the length and category, but it could range from word to 1,000. Let's have the examples. Before, we have Aesop's fables, very short stories that we can categorize as early or conventional flash fictions. Now, we have flash fictions of Ray Bradbury, for example. Next, number 9. 6-word flash fiction. What? 6 words? Yes, that is fun and fast, bite-sized narratives. And let's take bite of this. Like other forms of short stories or flash fiction, a 6-word story allows a reader to consume an entire narrative in just a moment's time. If flash fiction is very short stories, how about the 6-word flash fiction? Faster than Flash. Ernest Hemingway wrote the 6-word flash fiction, For Sale, Baby Socks Never Work. And Margaret Atwood wrote Longed for Him, Got Him. Let's have more examples. If you will be searching the net, you would see just like these ones. Sorry Soldier, Shoes Sold in Pairs. You're My Certain Kind of Sadness. And last, Your Biggest Regret, Those Happiest Moments. And you can create your own 6-word flash fiction. It's just like how you put captions on your IG posts and FB profile photos. Let's have the next one. Number 10. Creative non-fiction, or also known as literary non-fiction or narrative non-fiction. It is a genre of writing that uses literary styles and techniques to create factually accurate narratives. Since it is non-fiction, it should render accurate narratives based on facts. Next, B. Contrasts with other non-fiction such as technical writing or journalism, which is also rooted in accurate fact but is not primarily written in service to its craft. Non-fiction as based to real life but not meant to educate and inform, just like journalism. C. As a genre, creative non-fiction is still relatively young and is only beginning to be scrutinized with the same critical analysis given to fiction and poetry. Among all genres, creative non-fiction is still a rookie. D. 1,000 Gifts by Anne Voskamp and Wind, Sand, and Stars by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry are examples. 1,000 Gifts and Wind, Sand, and Stars. Some examples can be memoirs, personal essays, feature-length articles in magazines, and narratives in literary journals. Let's have the 11th. Science fiction, or simply sci-fi as we all know. They are actual or imagined science upon society or individuals. It is a genre of speculative fiction dealing with imaginative concepts such as futuristic science and technology, space travel, time travel, faster-than-light travel, a parallel universe, and extraterrestrial life. Often explores the potential consequences of scientific and other innovations and has been called a literature of ideas. Examples include Suzanne Collins, Mockingjay, and Sarah Maas' Kingdom of Ash. Take a look at these examples. Have you watched them already? The Hunger Games Mockingjay and The Avengers Endgame from Marvel Studios. Yes, you're right. You're looking at literary pieces turned movies. And they are examples of science fiction. Let's have 12th. Blog, or a regularly updated website or web page. Do you have one? A web blog, a website containing short articles called posts that are changed regularly. It is written in an informal or conversational style. Some blogs are written by one person containing their own opinions, interests, and experiences, while others are written by different people. Before we have vlogs in YouTube, these are the forms of blog that came before it. They are just written with pictures and some information. Let's have the examples. A blog can be about the writer's blogger's interests and specialization, where he or she can share his experiences and his point of view. It can be about travel, just like this one, and mortgage. It can be about education, about music, or anything. Lastly, we have hyperpoetry. It is a digital poetry that uses links using hypertext markup. Hyperpoetry can either involve set words, phrases, lines, or etc. that are presented in variable order but sit on the page much as traditional poetry does, or it can contain parts of the poem that move and mutate. It is usually found online through CD-ROM and diskette versions. The earliest examples date to no later than the mid-1980s. In simpler form, class, it is basically just traditional work or traditional poetry uploaded online. Hyperpoetry can contain hyperlinks, which are clickable that can move you from a page to another. That's why it is hyperpoetry. It uses hyperlinks and hypertext markups on it. But basically, it's simply a poem uploaded online. Let's have these examples. We have here Sonnet 141. Do you know William Shakespeare, class? Yes, a very famous writer around the world. This is just one sonnet from many sonnets that he has. Another one is a poem written in a figure of a man. Alright, class, what have you learned? What are the conventional literary genres as we have discussed? Correct. The conventional ones or genres of literary are poetry, drama, fiction, and non-fiction. What are the common characteristics of conventional literary genres? Conventional literary genres are based in oral tradition. They can be any time and any place using these phrases. Once upon a time, in a place far away. Next, they commonly have the same ending. They lived happily ever after. Next, contain common narrative motifs and common themes. And lastly, they make use of figurative language. What are the different 21st century literary genres? Can you name them all? Let's see. We have illustrated novel, digi-fiction, graphic novel, manga, doodle fiction, text talk novels, chick lit or chick literature, flash fiction, 6-word flash fiction, creative nonfiction, science fiction, blog, and hyperpoetry. We have 13 21st century literary genres. Remember them all and be sure to differentiate them from one another. What are the common characteristics of modern literary genres? Of course, first, they are modern, coming from new trends. They are open to experimentation and free from old forms and rules. Concerns artistic and social traditions. Comes from individual perspective. Writers make their own meaning of the world. Next, complex and also complicated. And here, in the 21st century literary genres is the rise of technology and mass communication. Now, if I may ask you, which do you like better? The conventional or the 21st century literary genres? Now, class, I want you to remember that the conventional literary genres cannot depart or cannot be taken away from what we have today in the 21st century literary genres. The old forms are just modified, developed, enhanced, and made more creative and artistic in the forms of the 21st century literary genres. Okay, we are done with the discussion. I want you to do your activities and answer on your respective modalities. For ODL, answer it on Google Classroom. For Modular Digital, answer it in our Facebook Learning group. And for the Modular Printed, write your answers on a sheet of separate paper. Do not write anything on your modules and submit them on time. Are you ready? Thank you so much for joining today's class. Prepare for the quiz next meeting as a reminder. You may now proceed on doing your activities. Enjoy learning, keep safe, and God bless you. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Goodbye!